Hello, I'm back. This is part 2 of the videos on the on my work on the Quindecim Stellis. As you can see, I have updated my video making skills, so I'm using another program right now. Let's see if this works. And okay, here we go. All right. Okay. Yeah, so we were at the Pleiades. So this is from Evans Appendix G in Magical Jewels of the Middle Ages. It describes the Pleiades talisman's instructions like this. This is, of course, the Latin original, and Greer translates this like this: fennel seed with frankincense and quicksilver placed under a crystal with the appropriate character engraved on it, with the moon conjunct the Pleiades, rising or at mid-heaven, preserves the eyesight, summons demons and the spirits of the dead, calls the winds and reveals secrets and things that are lost. So this is the translation by Greer of this chapter on the Pleiades, which is actually from the short Quindecim Stellis, which is called the Book of Enoch, even though there are longer versions of it. This is the synthetic version, I mean the very synthesized version of the Quindecim, which is basically the 5 columns manuscript with the content, really streamlined content. And this is the section, the little column on the effects. So yeah, the actual Quindecim manuscript that I have translated, that I am translating, is much longer, but this is more or less a synthesis of the content. So I have barred some things here, and I'm gonna explain why. However, I wrote, custodit lumen oculorum means it protects the light or shine or luster of the eyes. Facit scire means makes one know, and abscondita means hidden or occulted things. So it would be better to translate that as and makes one know secrets and hidden things. Demons, the word demons, of course, carries a negative connotation that Greek daimon, from which it derives, doesn't carry, a bit like angelos. And also, another important thing is that there is no mention of lost things in the original, as you can see here. The translation of et facit scire secreta et abscondita is and makes one know secrets and hidden things. So this is the better translation. So this is the next slide, sorry, in which I wrote a better translation could therefore be fennel seed with a grain of frankincense and quicksilver, which is mercury, placed under a crystal, which is clear quartz, with the corresponding character, the moon being conjunct with the Pleiades, in the ascendant or in the mid-heaven, preserves the shine or light of the eyes, summons daimons, which are spirits, and the spirits of the dead, calls the winds and makes one know secrets and hidden things. So basically I decided to translate demons, or in this case it was actually demones, which is I guess a late Latin, or maybe more, sorry, I don't know, but it's originally in the original Latin, demones should have been written with like D-A-E-M-O-N-E-S, so there should be an A here, but it is like abbreviated. So demones, Greer translates it as demons, but I think that it has a negative connotation, so I decided to just leave the original Greek word, daimon, which means spirits here, and the spirits of the dead, and also calls the winds and makes one know secrets and hidden things. So no mention again of lost things. Now there is a little asterisk here, because they say crystal, but which kind of crystal? And to understand this, we can go to the Lapidibus section and see what Hermes or whomever wrote there for clarifications. So in the Quindecim Lapidibus section, Hermes describes the stone of the Pleiades as crystal. Some say that it is the Diadokos, which is probably a stone that resembles Beryl. I still have no idea what the Diadokos is, which, when it is well wet or soaked, I guess with water, is like crystal, meaning clear quartz. Its virtue, sorry, in fact, is to aggregate or summon demons and spirits of the dead, and to call or summon winds, and to know of hidden secrets. The color of this stone, and this is where it's clear, is the color of frozen water that is clear on the inside and turbulent on the outside, meaning on its surface. So if you look at this description, it sounds like clear quartz, of course. Clear quartz resembles frozen water on the outside, because, you know, of the surface, the imperfections, and yeah, it's clear on the inside and turbulent on the outside. That's why it looks like almost like frozen water. So this is the part on the Quindecim image weirdness on the Pleiades. As I said in the previous video, the Pleiades, Algol, and Aldebaran probably got their images swapped, unless the author suddenly had some kind of illumination and understood something that we still didn't, but I guess he just swapped them and got confused. So from the digitized manuscript that I have seen, the one from the Kassel University, is written: the second image of the book, which should correspond to the Pleiades, is with a long bloody beard, is like a man wanting to fight. In the image it is like a man. Now Agrippa reports, of course, that this is the image of Algol. So the author probably got confused again, even though the Pleiades are considered to be of a martial temperament, and such an image could therefore be appropriate. Now about temperament, I will talk more about temperaments when we will get to the knowledge snippets section. So for now, we know that the Pleiades are described to be lunar, of a lunar nature, but having a martial complexio, which, as we will see, is basically the translation of temperament. So if you look at this image, which is like a man with a bloody beard wanting to fight, I mean, if the Pleiades have a martial temperament, it could probably be used for the Pleiades. Also, the Pleiades anciently were considered to be a malefic cluster of stars, so I don't know, you do what you want. Personally, I think this would be nice for some experiments and see what happens. But yeah, I wouldn't put my hand on the fire for this image being associated to the Pleiades. Again, the author probably just got confused. Now let's go in the section on Algol. So this is what Agrippa writes on the original Latin manuscript about Algol. And this is something that is missing, cum longa barba. Let me read you the translation to you first. So the translation of this is: under the head of Algol they made an image, whose image or shape or form was the head of a man with a long beard, having the neck or throat stained of or drenched in blood, It's reported to bestow the good outcome of petitions, to make the bearer audacious and magnanimous, to keep the limbs of the body uninjured, to be useful against evil actions and to reflect evil endeavors, and evil incantations against the enemy. Now, there's an interesting thing here. Agrippa mentions algol being useful against evil actions first, and it is useful to reflect evil endeavors 2, and evil incantations 3 against the enemy. Now, if algol just reflects evil incantations against the enemy, why would Agrippa be talking about the same thing 3 times? Why the same thing repeated 3 times? Are these maybe the 3 different things? I don't know. We will explore this in the next slide. Also, the little asterisk here, meaning the asterisk in the part where, as I said before, Agrippa says cum longa barba, which is with a long beard. This part about the long beard is missing from the 1651 translation of the 3 books. This is probably something that Eric Purdue covered in his new translation. I can't wait until I get my hands on the 3 books translated by him. It's probably going to be excellent, because yes, I've started by consulting the Latin manuscripts of Agrippa, and I saw that there were many imperfections and omissions, so having a definitive copy, a definitive translation, or as definitive as it can be, by somebody that is also a magician and knows what we're talking about, is gonna be nice, really nice. But anyway, this part is missing, so if you want to make an image of algol, not that you know, the head of Medusa doesn't work as an image, but if you want to follow the traditional lore that Agrippa is reporting here, just know that you would need to make an image of a man with a long beard drenched in blood, or with his neck drenched in blood. So yeah, this is something that many still don't know about algol and its image for a talisman. So this is from the Lapidibus section of the Quindecim Stellis, and this is a translation. The 3rd stone is called diamond, which has been approved to be the hardest one, meaning the hardest stone of all, because with it are broken or cut all the other precious stones, whose virtue is to give animosity and audacity, and it preserves the limbs uninjured. And if anyone wants to enchant or to curse, or maybe to con, more on this later, the wearer itself, the enchantment goes back onto the one who did it. And its color is like the color of lucid iron, and the star from whom its virtue comes from is the head of algol. And its virtue is tested or verified with the moon when it is with, meaning near or conjunct, that star. Now, why did I put this part in red? Because again, we see that even in the Quindecim Stellis, we see 2 things. One, if anyone wants to enchant or to curse. However, the translation may not be correct, because it's the translation of this bit here. Et si quis vult deferente millum incantare vel ficticiare, incantazione vertitur superfaciente millud. So basically it says, and if somebody wants the bearer itself and incantare vel ficticiare, then blah blah blah. So incantare, well, to enchant, of course, but ficticiare is difficult to translate, so this is why I wrote maybe to con, because as we will see in the next slide, ficticiare comes from the Latin fictitious, which means artificial or fake, factitious, imitated or simulated. It is probably just used to indicate cursing magically, probably. But if we decide to follow the road of interpreting that meaning literally, then according to Hermes and Agrippa, on top of her incredible protective power, which reflects back incantations upon the sender, algol also seems to protect against malicious actions by cheats and conmen, because it protects again against fictitiare, which comes from fictitious, which means this slew of things: artificial, fake, factitious, imitated, or simulated. So this is interesting, because if this is true, it means that algol has a way stronger protective power and a much ample protective power than we previously thought. Also notice that Hermes doesn't mention any evil whatsoever when he mentions the reversal of incantations. Maybe algol can also reflect back upon the sender all incantations, even neutral and good ones, opening up a whole slew of tactical possibilities. I don't know, it seems far-fetched, because why would we ever want to reflect upon the sender a neutral or a good incantation? But, you know, if you take this meaning literally, then maybe you can, and maybe there are some tactical possibilities, so to speak, that the witty magician can think about of using. I don't know. So therefore, when Agrippa says that algol is said to be useful against evil incantations and to reflect evil endeavors, and also against evil actions, so 3 things, and Hermes mentions fictitiare, maybe, just maybe, the authors meant a much bigger and comprehensive protective power than we thought, which comprehends, but is probably not limited to, just protection from incantations, but also from conmen, and indeed from all evil endeavors. So the best protective talisman of all, could it be? So yeah, hail algol. it can really be a 360 degrees protection talisman. Even though I remember that when I first made mine, I had to acclimate to its energy. Let's just say this, because it was very strong. It changed me in that it made me a bit more aggressive and more vindicative, and also more but not without motive, like supercharging my aggression when it was needed, like as a reaction. So yeah, interesting, very interesting protective powers. Also, algol, another side of algol is that it gives favor. And if it sounds like I'm advertising algol, yes, I'm advertising algol. So yeah, it gives also favor to with powerful people, which, you know, today they aren't kings, they aren't princes, but they are other kinds of men which are powerful and can give you favor, can give you can do all sorts of things for you. Yeah, so anyway, this is the third and final part of the Quindecim image weirdness, even though there will be even weirder things in a while. This is the section on algol, though. Why? Because according to the Quindecim digitized manuscript, the third image, which is corresponding to algol, is this. Warning, many abbreviations which I couldn't translate. So, this is what was written. There were a shit ton of abbreviations. The handwriting was just illegal. So I wrote that I honestly don't know how to translate this. Probably the figure of a seraphim, which are angels with 3 pairs of wings, one covering the head, one covering the feet, and one that they use to fly. And the head of a man bull slightly turned against the seraphim, I don't know, or the neck being slightly turned and the seraphim beside the head of the man. Again, I don't know. And again, if we look at Agrippa, maybe because we are pulling our hair because of this horrible transcription of whatever the author copied, we see that Agrippa attributes the figure of God or a flying man to Aldebaran. So again, the author probably got confused with the image of Aldebaran and it gave it to Algol. Yeah, it's interesting to note also that there is here mentioned the seraphim, which is a very specific angel. It's an angel with these wings, and also the head of a man bull. Yeah, it makes one think of Aldebaran, you know, the eye of the bull in the constellation of Taurus. Makes sense. So I am actually I have put my hands on the manuscript of the Quindecim Stellis of by the Lat, which has something like 7 or 9 or 10 different manuscripts of the Quindecim Stellis and the Book of Enoch version in it. So it's some sort of critical version, and the figure of Aldebaran is the figure of a bull, of a man with the head of a bull. So I don't know what the author, I don't know, I was tripping on LSD or something here. So it's probably the figure of a man with the head of a bull flying, or maybe the figure of an angel. But yeah, I think I will say more on this when I will study it more thoroughly and I will complete this work. For now, so yeah, go with the old Aldebaran figure and the Aldebaran image, I guess, for now, until it's more clear what's going on. So this is another nice one. This is the one on Sirius and the Great Golden Beryl controversy. Why controversy? Well, because if you doubled around the community, you know that the stone used for Sirius is the Heliodor, which is golden beryl. The variety of beryl, which is yellow. So this is interesting because if you look at the Quindecim Stellis in the Lapidibus section, this is what's written there. The 5th stone is called beryl, and it's clear in the same way of crystal, meaning like rock crystal or clear quartz, or like seawater, and is almost like the eye. And it has to have angles from which its splendor or clarity or brightness or clearness or limpidity appears, proceeds, or comes forth, meaning that its angles or faces give it or contribute to its clarity or limpidity. And I'm sorry because I've left here like 5 different words for a single Latin term, which is claritas. And claritas has so many different connotations to it. Yeah, it means bright, clear, clarity, splendor, clearness, limpidity, shininess, brightness. It means many things, so it's very descriptive, and that's why I thought that either I put claritas and left claritas in here, or maybe I put like 4 or 5 different words to convey what the Latin term actually means. So, whose virtue is great honor and great benevolence, putting harmony among kings or powerful people and other men. And when the moon is conjunct with Al-Habor, which is Sirius, at that time its virtue increases, and especially if it is on the ascendant or in the medium celi. And if you wish to set such stone in gold, set it with the moon and Venus when they will be conjunct with Al-Habor, and you will succeed. Now this is interesting because, as we see here, Hermes is saying that the stone of Sirius is beryl. And this beryl is clear in the same way of crystal, or like seawater. And it is almost like the eye. And it has to have angles from which its claritas proceeds or appears. And if you wish to set such stone in gold, set it when the moon and Venus will be conjunct with Sirius. So we see here that the description of the stone is separated from anything yellow or golden. We see instead in the next section, like here in the next red section, that if you want to set such stone in gold, then you do it when the moon and Venus will be conjunct the star. So this is interesting because there is no mention of gold and beryl. There is mention of a beryl, which is like seawater and almost like the eye, and if you wish to set such stone in gold. So these are two separate things. So let's take a look at the description in Evans' book of Enoch. Ius de Savina, cum Artemisia, Dragantia, blah blah blah. So we see here that positum auro sub berillo is the same as positum sub berillo auro, as both berillo and auro are ablative, so auro is probably referring to berillo. Besides, there is no in, as in positum in auro sub berillo. So basically this contradicts what we just saw in the expanded, so to speak, Quindecim Stellis in the Lapidibus section, because here we see that well, basically it says put under golden beryl. The translation of all of this is juice of Savian juniper with mugwort or wormwood and dragantia and a small piece of snake's tongue put under golden beryl, etc., gives favor with the spirits of the air and the peoples of the earth, and it puts peace and harmony among kings and other powerful people, and between husband and wife. So as you can see here, I wrote that this contradicts Hermes' lore. However, it's possible that the original meaning by Hermes, referring to a stone set in gold and not ingredients set under a golden stone, probably got lost in translation. Probably, I don't know. It makes sense to suppose this. Besides, the Lapidibus section makes a clear distinction between the description of the stone and how and when to put it in gold, and puts these two descriptions in two distant parts of that paragraph, so that we know for sure that they don't relate to each other. So the section where he says gold is one section, and before that we got the section where he says put this stone this stone is like this, of this color, and he makes no mention of golden color or yellow color. So I don't know, we can infer from this that probably the original was not a golden beryl. So the fifth stone is called beryl, as we saw before. This is from the Lapidibus, and it's clear in the same way of crystal, meaning like rock crystal or clear quartz, or like seawater, and is almost like the eye, and it has to have angles from which its splendor, its claritas proceeds. Now Hermes is probably talking about aquamarine. Now you can see some images here. On the left, aquamarine. In the center you can see two blue eyes. On the right, Heliodor, which is the golden variety of beryl. Aquamarine is basically the blue variety. Both Aquamarine and Heliodor are Beryl, but I guess only one resembles seawater. Yes, that's sarcasm. So as you can see here, look at the eyes. They resemble Aquamarine perfectly. And if you look at Heliodor, you know, I had difficulty finding yellow natural eyes on the internet. So it makes sense to suppose that Hermes originally thought about Aquamarine and not Heliodor. Now, Sirius, Agrippan Special. What the hell is Draconteam, Dragantia, or Draconcia? Now, for this, I took from Culpeper. This is from the Complete Herbal. He writes, Draconti, Dracunculi. Diverse authors attribute diverse herbs to this name. It is most probable that they mean dragons, the roots of which cleanse mightily and take away proud or dead flesh. The very smell of them is hurtful for pregnant women. Outwardly, in ointments, they take away scurfs, morphew, and sunburning. I would not wish any, unless very well read in physic, to take them inwardly. Matthiolus Dioscorides. They are so well known to everyone that plants them in their gardens, they need no description. If not, let them look down to the lower end of the stalks and see how like a snake they look. Culpeper is talking about the Dracunculus vulgaris. Its stalk produces chemically its own heat up to 18 degrees Celsius. That is like what is it, like like 70 Fahrenheit or something? I don't know, anyway. 18 degrees Celsius, sorry Americans, and emanates a rotten meat stench. They are called like that, meaning Dracunculus, which means little dragon in Latin, from Draco, because the stalk looks like the tail of a little dragon burrowing into the flower, and the flowers look like the skin of a snake or a dragon. Sirius is associated to droughts, the dog days, and the hottest period of the year, and the tongue of a snake is also mentioned as materia, meaning to make a talisman. A plant such as the Dracunculus therefore would feel appropriate as a plant for Sirius. And in the next slide you can see here how like the stalk of the flower looks like the little tail of a dragon burrowing inside the flower. And you can also see here, this is the internal part of the flower, which looks like the skin of a snake. Yeah, so, you know, dragons, snakes, producing its own heat, makes sense that Agrippa talks about this as the herb of Sirius. Now this is part 2. This is actually from was it? I don't remember the source, I'm sorry, but anyway, in Italy, in the different regions of Italy, the Dracunculus vulgaris is called like this, many different ways. So basically, this plant, which we know is the Dracunculus vulgaris, is called Aro Serpone in Tuscany, Bischea. Serpone means big snake. Bischea is like a very simple kind of snake. Dracuncolo, Dragonea, Dragontea, Draconzio, Draguna, Dragonea. Erba biscia, which literally means snake herb. Erba sarpineia, Erba serpentaria. Again, Erba serpentaria is almost like snakish herb. Erba serpona, again, Erba serpone. Granon de biscia, lingua di serpe, which is another interesting one, means literally a snake's tongue. And this is in Tuscany. Serpentaria also in Tuscany, Sirpintaria in Sicily. So as you can see, Dragonzio, Dragontea here, Dracuncolo, Dragonea. You can see that since Evans mentions Dragantia, which is probably again a distortion of Dragantia, Agrippa mentions Draconteam, and in the digital manuscript of the Quindecim is mentioned Dragontia. It seems reasonable to suppose that Evans, Agrippa, and Hermes are talking about the Dracunculus vulgaris. Again, I don't know if this is correct, because, as I said in the previous video, similarity of sound is not always a guarantee when you are studying the evolution of words, but it makes for a really strong case for the Dracunculus vulgaris being indeed the herb of Sirius. And now its image. This is from the Quindecim Imaginum or Figurarum section. Imaginibus. Quinta figura est leporarius et puella Virgo bene disposita, which means the fifth figure, corresponding to Sirius, is leporine and a virgin maiden well positioned, meaning in a beautiful pose. Now, leporine actually is leporarius in the text, which is an adjective. The author probably abbreviated leporarius canis, which is the greyhound, as leporarius. As leporarius is an adjective, which would, with all probability, refer to a name which is missing here, meaning canis, of course. Agrippa, in fact, writes canis leporari, vel puella virginis, meaning a greyhound or a virgin maiden. And also the beautiful pose part is missing from Agrippa, Virgo bene disposita. So, actually a friend of mine recently sent me material on Sirius, and I don't know if she wants me to say her name, but anyway, you know who you are, so thank you. And in this old coin, it's the image of a coin which represents Isis, Sothis, and basically depicts a maiden on top, basically riding a leporary dog, which is a greyhound. And so we can see that Sirius is associated to Isis, to Sothis, and probably the authors and also Agrippa are referring to this. So I guess you could experiment with the image of Sirius if you want to make an astrological talisman, with a virgin maiden riding a greyhound, put in a beautiful pose, like, riding like a horse, and she is, like, I don't know, well positioned. And you can try and see what effects that has. Okay, so let's move to Procyon, or Procyon, or whatever, and the gives power over or against magic controversy. Now, this is from the Quindecim Stellis and Lapidibus sections on Procyon. The sixth star is called in Arabic Algomesa, in Latin Canis Minor, meaning the lesser dog. Such a star is near to the circle of the signs, is close to the zodiac meaning, and is of the nature of Mercury and of the temperament of Mars. Moreover, such a star makes men audacious and rational, should it be on the ascendant, and it gives power of winning, should it be on the ascendant or on the medium celi, and the moon were conjunct with it. Little asterisk here, which we will go to later. The sixth stone is called agate, whose color is saffron, which is a particularly light tint of orange. Nevertheless, some find them black or dark, meaning some find agate stones of this color. Others white and striped, whose virtue is to give favor among God and men, and it makes the man, meaning the wearer, welcomed or loved by the spirits of the air, and it gives great power against magic. Moreover, its star is Algomesa, which is Procyon, and thus tests its virtue with, meaning when, the moon shall be conjunct with her. So, first point, notice how the virtues of Procyon are more for an ascendant-based election compared to an MC-based election, which doesn't give audacity and rationality. If you look at the description here, it says that such a star makes men audacious and rational should it be on the ascendant, and it gives power of winning should it be on the ascendant or on the medium coeli. So you can see that if you were to make a talisman of Procyon, when Procyon is at the MC, basically it would give you just the power of winning, because the power of winning it gives should it be on the ascendant or the medium coeli. But if you put it on the ascendant, you get the power of winning, because you get the power of winning should it be on the ascendant, and it makes you audacious and rational too, because that only happens if you use it during an election, you know, when the star is rising. So this is interesting because you know, from this we can infer that yes, the elections on the MC or the ascendant are different. We see here that there is lore, even pretty specific lore, that says that yes, if you put it on the ascendant you get these effects, and if you put it on the MC you get these effects. So yeah, interesting. Usually people maybe think that you know, there's literally no difference between an election with the star on the ascendant and an election as compared to an election where the star is on the MC, but actually there is. And I guess this goes back to the old you know, the significations of the MC and the ascendant being associated to the wearer, the user, and the MC being more, you know, the end result of the thing. So it makes sense that it gives power of winning, either it being on the ascendant or on the MC, but it only makes you audacious and rational, meaning it infuses something into you if it is on the ascendant, which is the significator of the user itself. So yeah, and second thing, literally contra magicam. Contra meaning against, counter, or in front of. So contra magicam of course means against magic. So it gives power, great power against magic. So Procyon doesn't give power over magic in the sense that it raises your ability to do magic, but it protects against magic, so it's a protective kind of talisman. And it also gives you the power of winning. And audacious, and it makes you audacious and rational should it be on the ascendant, you know. So yeah, this at least it's what's written here, and I can see why maybe Greer wrote over magic, because it's easy to get lost in the different connotations of contra. I can see why he wrote over, but yeah, I just don't think it makes sense. I think that the connotations of over they're just not right for this, because it's against, really. It's not over. Over can be misinterpreted to mean, yeah, as the community thought. Sorry, one moment of a void of memory. Over can mean that it gives power to it basically augments your power to do magic, and it doesn't, at least according to the Lapidibus section, where the virtues of Agate are described. Gives power against magic, so it's protective. Alright, I'm gonna close this off. Next, the image of Procyon. From the Quindecim Imaginibus section, sexta figura aut gallum minimus, vel a weird abbreviation, which I didn't recognize, Puella. This means the sixth figure is like a very small rooster, or incomprehensible maiden. So Minimus, that is very small, is missing from Agrippa, but he mentions a trio of maidens. So he says Imaginem Galli, he doesn't say Imaginem Galli Minimus. So yeah, you could try to experiment with the Talisman of Procyon by making the image of a very small rooster. Vel Trium Puellarum, which is a trio of maidens. So from this manuscript we get the single information of the very small rooster. Not much else. Actually, this is not Puellarum. So one could also experiment in making an image of a single maiden. Puella is singular, so a very small rooster and a maiden. I don't know, again, probably the author was tripping, so you could try and see what happens. Now, this is a section that I like, alla Corvi, because it, in a way, it rehabilitates alla Corvi, this poor star that everybody hates. So this is from the Quindecim Stellis. The eighth star is called the Wing of the Crow, and it doesn't shine much as some of the others, of which before we made mention. It is in fact of the nature of Saturn and of Mars, and it retains in itself multiple bad significations, and because it is full of total misfortune, when infortunes would be conjunct with her, it makes every kind of evil. It means every kind of evil whose significations Saturn and Mars hold. Meaning, when malefics are conjuncted, this star signifies evils of the nature of Saturn and Mars. Da. Anyway, and if the moon were with them, meaning if the moon were conjunct Saturn, Mars, and alla Corvi, it is said that she is in a great evil signification. Oh, sorry. Meaning, what's with the yawns today? Anyway, the moon's conjunction to the star and the malefics heavily debilitates her. I mean, again, unless the fortunes would relieve or heal her, like the Sun, Jupiter, and Venus, such a star you will put in destructive works. Again, for the third time. And those in whose root of nativity, that is, the natal chart, such a star is on the ascendant or on the medium coeli, it predicts or indicates unhappiness of the same native. Okay, now unhappiness in the digitized manuscript, this is actually infelicitatem in Latin, and this in the manuscript is replaced with infidelitatem, which is infidelity, disloyalty, or treachery. This is maybe a mistranscription because, as we said, the author was probably tripping balls during this transcription. It's probably an inadvertency, but anyway, it's appropriate to the significations of the star, nonetheless. I mean, I can see how infidelitatem and infelicitatem, meaning infidelity, disloyalty, treachery, and unhappiness, can be associated to this star. So, yeah, probably a mistranscription, but still appropriate, I guess. Unless, of course, we have fortunes that come to the aid, come to the rescue, such as the Sun, Jupiter, and Venus. Now, from the Quindecim Stellis, Lapidibus section, this is alla Corvi and the effects of Onyx. From the Lapidibus section, we read, the eighth stone is called Onyx, and many of them are found. Its color is black. It makes man, meaning the wearer, irate or wrathful, impetuous and audacious and evil thinking, and a backbiter, literally someone evil speaking. And it makes one dream crooked or bad or perverse or corrupted dreams. and it summons and makes spirits run away, whose star is the wing of the crow. So, here, end evil thinking. In the digitalized manuscript, mala is replaced or confused, again, because the author was tripping, with multa, which means a lot or very much, thereby changing the meaning to someone who thinks a lot instead of someone who thinks evil things. This shifts the effects of Onyx more toward alertness and sagacity instead of paranoia and psychopathy, removing its negative connotation and instead possibly giving it a positive one. Agrippa too, in Book 2, Chapter 47, only mentions cogitabundum, which means just thoughtful, without any negative connotations. So this is interesting because we see a variation in the manuscript, and then this is also, I don't want to say confirmed, but I guess supported by Agrippa, which just mentions cogitabundum, which just means thoughtful. So the evil thinking may not always be what you get when you make a talisman of alla Corvi, especially if you have the benefics helping the election. And it probably makes for somebody that thinks a lot and maybe, again, alert and sagacious, instead of paranoid and, just a plain psychopath. And the next slide, alla Corvi, it's herbs and animal parts, according to Agrippa. And a bonus, it's surprising new virtue, because yes, there may be a new virtue, according to this manuscript. So, actually this is Agrippa. Book 1, Chapter 32, and Book 2, Chapter 47. This is my Latin to English translation. The ninth is called Wing of the Crow. Under it, among stones, is black onyx. Among plants, lapachum, which is the greater burdock, quadraginum or quadragenum, which I don't know what is, henbane, and common comfrey, which is the symphytum officinale. Of the living materials, meaning animantibus, intended as animal parts, he says animantibus, it's probably just referring to the animal parts, the materia for the talisman. Moreover, the tongue of a frog. Now, this is the start of Book 2, Chapter 47. Under the wing of the crow, they made an image of a crow, or of a serpent, or of a black or dark man who wears a black or dark garment. It makes man irate, audacious, impetuous, thoughtful, again, evil-speaking, and it causes bad dreams or sleep. It gives power of driving away spirits and of summoning them. It is useful against the malice of men, of spirits, and of mishappenings. Now, first asterisk, the tongue of a frog. In the digital manuscript and in Evans' Book of Enoch, the tongue of a frog, which is lingua rane, is replaced or confused with lingua rave, which is probably a mistranscribed lingua rane, which is by itself abbreviated from rane, meaning R-A-N-A-E, instead of just R-A-N-E. So this would mean a tawny or dark tongue or stamen, probably of the burdock flower. It's probably an error caused by the confusion between the letters N and V, meaning lingua rave and lingua rane, but it's worth considering nonetheless. Lingua could also refer to crowfoot, which is buttercup or butterflower, which is a very martial herb according to Culpeper. Curiously enough, under the Linnean classification, this species, meaning the crowfoot, has been called ranunculus, which is Latin for little frog. Interesting, eh? And of course, yeah, no idea about the quadraginum for now. So, this is interesting because, as you can see, we got correspondences everywhere. Everything seems to cross with other information. Crowfoot, and we're talking about alla Corvi. ranunculus, you know, we're talking about alla Corvi. So the tongue of a frog, the species being called crowfoot or ranunculus. I mean, it's interesting. It's also a very martial herb, according to Culpeper. So it would also correspond to the nature of alla Corvi. So it's probably, you know, a nice herb to use for alla Corvi talismans if you want. And asterisk number 2. It is useful against the malice of men, of spirits, and of mishappenings. Now, this is another part which is missing in the 1651 translation of the 3 books. Alla Corvi may be a protective talisman against the malice of men and spirits, but also against ill luck, mishappenings. So it could also be a talisman which gives you sort of like a lucky charm or an anti-bad luck, you know, because if it's useful against the malice of men and of spirits, it can protect you. So again, it seems like more of a algolish kind of talisman, but it is also good against mishappenings. So, you know, against ill luck. This may be an exciting, surprising new virtue of alla Corvi. And yeah, I don't see, well, yeah, I don't see anybody in the community making talismans of alla Corvi. Nobody talked about it. Nobody talks about it. Nobody wants to have anything to do with it because they think they will become, you know, more of a psychopath, more of a shitty person. But I don't know, man, maybe with the right election, with the help of the benefics. I don't know, I'm just saying. Could also give a help against bad luck. Something to think about. And this is the Imaginibus section of alla Corvi, meaning this is the Latin, of course, this is the translation. The 8th is called horn, cornus, probably corvus. So instead of horn, again, the author probably meant crow. Yeah. I don't know. I want the contact with his pusher. I don't know what he took before doing this translation, this transcription, but he must be tripping. He must have been tripping on something really good. Or snake, or a black man clothed with a black vest. Yeah, again, the author got confused again. It's what V with N. Or, you know, probably, you know, copying this text while, you know, using the light of a candle at night, trying to understand what the hell is written. Maybe he wasn't even acquainted with the material. He wasn't even a magician. He was just, you know, somebody that transcribed this manuscript, and yeah, just got confused. Instead of cornus, he wrote, instead of corvus, he wrote cornus, and so he swapped the V with the N. And after seeing the handwriting of some Latin manuscripts, I mean, I can understand him and his struggle. Sometimes it's very difficult, if not impossible, to understand what the fuck is going on with the handwriting of some authors. And this is Spica. Yeah, I guess we will stop here for today. And yeah, this is another interesting section. But yeah, I guess I will see you the next time. Oh my god, just an hour of recording. Yeah, I guess we will stop here for today. So thank you for being with me for this part, throughout part 2. As always, please, where is it? Subscribe here, like the video, share it whenever and wherever you want, and I will see you next time in part 3. Goodbye.